This is the Three Skeevers podcast.
All right, episode 16 of the Three Skeevers podcast with Grim from Grim's Forge Gaming and myself, Icy, with Icyfire Gaming. How you doing, Grim?
Good. How are you?
I am doing great. Year Mayhem this week has been a blast, and we have a special guest. He started out as an enemy, I'd say, a few months ago, but now he's one of our good friends that we break bread with. Sinnfullduck, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. How you guys?
Awesome.
Good.
So I guess, yeah, we'll just jump right into the show. Take it away, Grim.
Yeah, episode 16. So can I tell my background story with you, Sinful?
Oh, I'm getting nervous, man. Go for it.
Okay. So this was, what was it? 3 years ago, 4 years ago that you were doing regular content?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So 3-4 years ago, you were one of the content creators that I followed and I really liked. And especially the episodes where you showed a behind the scenes, an example would be, hey, I'm heading over to my buddy Zero Moss's house tonight. We're going to do some we're going to do some theory crafting and, kind of set up our builds for PvP. Why don't you guys come along with us for the trip? And then,
yeah, those were fun.
Yeah. Then you would do from your cell phone, as you're unloading or
it was like a vlog style kind of thing. Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, unhook the computer, put the computer in the car. You're literally driving down the road and talking, about what the plans are for the night. Then you're setting the computer up over at his house. And I really kind of liked that. That was awesome. Very
Thanks,
unique.
Man. Yeah, I appreciate it. It took a good amount of effort to make those, so I'm glad someone appreciated them.
Yeah, I really liked that. So I used to follow you, and then I hadn't seen you for the longest time in game. I had never seen you in game before, but I was looking for you in game, knowing that you PvP and I PvP'd often. I'd just never seen you. And then there was a night where I think Icy, me, and do you recall who was with us, Icy, or was it just us two? Or was Papa with us? It was the three of us.
If you give me a date, I can tell you probably who was there.
Oh, it was about that time, around then.
Like a few months ago?
No, it was when he first came back.
Perfect description.
Yeah.
It was
around that time.
I want to say it's probably Papa then. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's the three of us, and we're at middle, and two Nightblades try and gank us, try and kill us. And I remember we kill Zero, and the other one disappears. And I'm just standing here. I'm on my Witcher, and I'm standing here looking at Zero, and I'm like, why is that name so familiar? Why do I know that name? Like, this wasn't just a regular nobody either. Like, the burst coming from stealth was impressive. And I'm like, why do I know that name? And then just as it's occurring to me, oh, that's Zero. That's Zero. Is this other guy Sinful? And just then Sinful comes out and bursts on me. And it's a fight to stay alive or whatever. And anyways, I'm telling myself immediately, as soon as this altercation's over with, I have to message Sinful and let him know how much of a fan I am. And so anyways, I think Zero didn't release. He was hoping that Sinful would get us, and I think we got Sinful, but I immediately messaged Sinful, and I was like, I'm such a huge fan or whatever. And I think 40 minutes or so had passed because I thought maybe he wasn't happy with the fact that we got him. I mean, they were outnumbered, but 40 minutes had passed, and then I got this, oh, hey, thanks so much, yeah, good to be back. And so anyways, I was just really excited. It was kind of this OMG, that's Sinnfullduck. So that's my story. That's all I got.
Yeah, I remember that because you guys definitely got me because I was standing in the base when I got the message. I think we just took a little break after that, but yeah, that was like one of our first days back in the game. We were trying to figure out because I mean we've been gone for so long that so much had changed that we had no idea what the builds were like anymore and would would our current builds work at this point? So yeah, we were trying to figure things out. So we took a little break to do a little theory crafting, and then I saw your message. So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I was super excited to see you coming back. And then you weren't so sure, I think, because you had so much, like the learning curve, like you were saying, you weren't sure about doing content. And now here you are, you've got a couple videos up and you're back in the saddle again, and you're rocking some just really, really scary, dangerous builds. And you're one of the most feared DC players out there. So that's awesome. Both you guys.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, we, like you said, I was kind of trying to avoid doing videos again because, like you said, so much had changed. And I don't know, man, like back in the day, I used to take it probably a little too serious where anything I did, I tried to stay as far away from whatever the meta was as possible. And it made content creation really difficult when everybody was using meta to just beat on you and you were trying to do something different and it just wouldn't work all that well all the time. So I don't know. I just decided this time now that I know I want to make videos because I enjoy it. So I decided, you know what? Let's just have some fun with it. Throw on whatever the cheesy meta stuff is for the moment and let's go at it.
Yeah, and it's working. It's working. Yeah. So, so let's talk about how long ago was it that you got started in ESO? And then after you started ESO, how long did it take you to get into PvP?
Oh, well, I actually kind of started with PvP. Zero and I actually started playing a game called Dark Age of Camelot, like way back in like, I don't know, early 2000s. And so we were heavy into PvP with that game. We moved on to WoW for a while, and then I started playing Elder Scrolls games when like Morrowind first released. So like, I don't know, I was in like high school or something. And so when I heard that they were doing an Elder Scrolls Online, it combined, I loved the Elder Scrolls games and I loved MMO PvP, and that was kind of like combining the two things. And the original developers for this game were some of the same people that made Dark Age of Camelot, which is it's still today probably my favorite PvP game of all time. And it was too good not to pass up, so I had to jump in. So I got into the beta for ESO and had to drag Zero along with me because he was my gaming buddy. So drug him along, and we just kind of started with PvP right off the bat.
Wow, right into PvP right out the gate. That's why you're here. You're here to kill people.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So, what have you noticed coming all the way from beta? I came all the way from beta too. What have you noticed? You've been there through it all, through every meta, everything. You did miss a little bit of time. And if you kind of had to plot that out on a piece of paper, what are some moments that you've noticed as far as meta and where we're at right now and where you think we're going?
Oh man. I mean, I remember a time back when the game was pretty new that everybody's kind of trying to figure out everything, and the I don't know if you could even call it this, but the meta back then, like nobody even really used enchants on their gear. Nobody used food or drink because like we just didn't know about it. Most people didn't even upgrade their gear or their weapons because we didn't realize what everything was yet. And so PvP really at that point, because people knew the basic stats, but we didn't know all these little, min max things that we could do. PvP back then was really kind of a different animal. It came down a lot more to skill based things because it was all up to, can you outplay the person you're against, rather than who has the better resource management or who has the better procs or the higher stats, or so the meta then was extremely different to what you see now, where everybody's got 40,000 health and maxed out armor and proc sets up the wazoo. You know, it's definitely been a long road to get to where we are now, and I don't want to say I don't enjoy it now, because I definitely do. I'm having a lot of fun using my super procky warden, but I definitely would like to see kind of a return to what we had before with more skill based stuff. And I don't think skill based necessarily means you have to have just like a stat based meta, but I don't know. I think with some of the changes they're making, that hopefully with the new CP system, you know, we're kind of on the way to making it so that people who are good at theory crafting and good at playing their class, you know, you take the time to really dive in and learn the ins and outs of your class. I think the new CP system is going to kind of lend itself a little more toward getting us back toward that skill based style of PvP, rather than just everyone being super tanky and, you know, whoever's got the biggest procs wins kind of thing.
Have you checked out the changes I think that they did this week for Cyrodiil with the removal of anything that's a proc set? Because I would think that they'd be kind of more in line with what you're saying, right? With, you know, less proc sets, more static sets, which then kind of makes it fall back to, you know, more skill based play, right?
Yes and no. I mean, I saw when they announced it in the, what was it, the reveal thing they did earlier this week. They talked about removing the procs, but I don't know. It's kind of a mixed thing for me, because I like that they're cutting down the procs, but it also removes a lot of stat based things. Something like burning spell weave. It's a proc, but it's a stat based proc. You know, it gives you what, 400 something spell damage, right? So even things like that are being shut down for this. So you're kind of stuck with things that just give you static upgrades, which is nice. I don't know if that's, you know, removing them entirely is the right way to go, but I am actually excited to jump into Cyrodiil during that test and kind of see how it goes, because I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Is that what they're doing this week during Mid-Year Mayhem, or is that a future test that they're doing?
I you know what? I don't know. I don't think it's this week. I want to say it's going to be when the patch comes out, but I really don't know for sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I kind of think after looking how the adjustments that they've made to the CP tree and the armors, the passives, and restrictions or whatever, it looks to me like we might be heading into a stat-based or skill-based era. So if they don't need to completely cut procs out. If they choose to cut procs out, I'm fine with that too. Like if they want to cut their damage in half or whatever, to make it to where it's like, what's the point? You know, it is a little extra damage, but it doesn't carry me, you know, and make it more skill based.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, and I think the new CP system, with having to be more intentional with your choices, because you have to slot four things for each tree, right? I think because you have to be more intentional with it, it's going to make a lot more diversity in the setups. Like, there's not just going to be one route that everyone has to take, and like, this is best. Depending on the gear you're using, you're going to want different things. And because you can't just have everything, it's going to make the theory crafting side of things, at least for me, it's going to make it a lot more exciting, because for most builds right now, it's just a matter of, you know, for the CP anyway, it's just a matter of taking points from one, you know, if I'm going to go with a burst build versus a dot build, I just take points out of one thing and move them over to the other, and that's that. But with this new system, it's, I don't know, I feel like there's going to be a lot more stuff, and it's getting me kind of excited, you know?
Yeah, I was watching you jump around in the PTS for 30 minutes or so, and we were chatting as you were going through it. You're kind of our expert on the ground. I need to get the PTS up and going so I can look and see. But yeah, the thing I noticed is the CP tree allows you to really kind of niche down on whatever it is you're trying to do. And it's like you said, way more than just taking points out of one thing and putting it into the other and done. You could really, really tailor your build to do exactly what you want. And it looks kind of cool. Hopefully it works that way. Like, it looks cool, looks like that's the way it functions. And hopefully it does have that impact on your build. So
yeah, my biggest concern with it at the moment, and it's something I talked about in a video recently, is just that there's a lot of people out there who started the game in the last year or even in the last 2 years who have, like, you're sitting around that 8-10 CP mark. And for right now, that's perfectly fine because you're maxed out. You're on a level playing field with everyone. But come this next update, all of a sudden you're at like 850 CP, and you have to fight against people with 2,000 or more. So how much more of an advantage are they going to have over people? That's the only thing that's worrying me right now. But we'll have to kind of buckle up and wait and see what happens.
From my understanding, it sounded like it wasn't going to be that much of an impact, because once you have those 12 nodes filled out, right? 4 nodes per constellation, then everyone's kind of on the same footing. And then any additional CP after that, it's like very minimal gains, but it shouldn't be like a make or break if you're going against, say, somebody who has 1,200 CP versus somebody who has 2,400.
it's more so that some of the CP options are firewalled behind the higher CP.
Yeah, some of the good passives that you can slot, you got to spend a lot of points to get to them. But there's also, even if let's say you and I have a big CP differential like that, and we're specking out the same exact build, but you have to choose between putting 50 points into more max magicka or some spell pen, whereas I have more points, so I can just take them both. So it's not going to be like the things that you slot necessarily that are going to make the biggest difference. There's a lot of nodes that you don't have to slot. You just put points in them and they give you stat boosts. And the people with high CP can just take them all.
Then it kind of sounds like we're still in the situation that we'd be in, right?
I guess I'm not sure what you mean there.
So, I mean, just compare somebody with, we'll say 45 points into heavy armor focus compared to somebody who doesn't have those 45 points, who's just at 0, right?
Right, but that's a choice right now. If both players are at 8-10 CP right now, that's a
I'm
choice
saying,
that
like,
person's making.
I'm saying with CP available, so you're just comparing somebody with, if you're gonna get 45 points, that'd be like 135 CP compared to somebody who has 10 CP, right?
Okay.
This guy's gonna put 45 points into heavy armor focus. The other guy, he can't. So now he's down 4,000 armor compared to the other guy.
True.
It sounds very from the example that you gave. It sounds like we'd still be in that same scenario, since you now you can put points into that and I can't because you're higher CP.
Right, and yeah, you're right. It's kind of the same scenario. The difference is that now somebody with 1 CP versus somebody who's maxed, your difference is only 809 points, whereas now you're going to be fighting people with potentially up to 2,000 points more than you. So it's the same situation, but the gap can be much larger now.
And tailor-made to suit the higher CP person if they're smart with their CP allocation. If their points are well spent, every ounce of those points that are spent are going towards being more effective at exactly what they do.
I'm just kind of I don't know how it's all going to work out. Obviously, I haven't spent a whole lot of time with it, but I'm hoping that they've thought ahead on that a little bit, and that the points that you can spend aren't going to be so much that it's going to make a huge difference. I mean, we may be sitting here complaining about absolutely nothing. So who knows? We'll have to see what they end up with.
I guess in terms of max stats, because I know they're baselining everything where all races will get 16K and X amount of resources and whatever, but and how and the reason they're doing that is because when you go from CP 10 to 810, I think they said it was like a 20% or 20% stat change, when you go from 10 to 810, but with the new changes that they're doing, they're removing that completely and just having everybody be at a baseline of 16K, 16K max health. So I don't. So yeah, it would just be to what you said, Grim. It would just be more of being more effective. Yeah, but in terms of like max stats, I think it should be virtually the same for the most part.
Well, I'll tell you this. I took my my warden because for the PTS right now they copied everyone's characters over. So I took my warden and logged him on the PTS and put some points in the CP system. And on the live server, my warden has 35,000 HP, and on the PTS he had 43,000. So the
That's
stats
perfect
are
for a warden.
definitely going up. The stats are definitely going up.
That's 7K, right? 35 to 43, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right
So,
in terms of because they're moving everyone's base health up.
mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I think they said it's 7K or 8K, so and it's gonna be 16K now. So yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
So these stat boosts that you get through that new CP system might be even more crucial to be able to keep up with people who are going to. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see wardens and necros or somebody running around with 50 to 60,000 health outside of their like necro form.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of this, so the fact of the base stats being raised, your weapon and spell damage is raised too. I noticed that on your build, you noticed it. And then Dr. Gankenstein just was comparing one of his builds today or yesterday on a video, and he's got almost 1,000 extra weapon damage on the PTS. That kind of leads me to believe higher base stats, higher weapon damage, and then they're exploring removing or changing proc sets. And then you look at the CP tree, that makes me think that that's the reason why. I take all those little tidbits and connect the dots. I think that we're moving into a skill-based, stat-based future. So
Yeah, there is something in the patch notes that says at level 50 that you have 1,000 spell damage base now. So
yeah, Valkorian's going to have 9 or 10k spell damage. That's going to be awesome.
yeah, man. Some of the stat based builds that you have like that are going to be just absolutely ridiculous. They're going to be so high. I'm kind of excited to see it, but hopefully I never have to fight one.
Yeah, well, we're all going to be that at some point, I bet. What do you think that's going to do for no CP? No CP, we're just going to have a bunch of Is it going to contribute to the tank meta when we're going to have more heavy stat-based people? It's going to be hard to put people away.
Yeah, I don't know, because I mean, you've got kind of two different sides of it where they're giving everybody a little bit more stats. They're giving you 15% damage reduction at base now, but you're also getting 1,000 extra weapon and spell damage. So I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that in terms of like time to kill, that it'll all kind of even out to at least somewhere close to what it is right now.
Yeah, I know that both those things are going to benefit Icy's warden healers, his support builds, because having higher health on a warden, will scale its healing, and having more spell damage will scale also. So,
Oh yeah,
that's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
they
that's gonna be.
typically do these PTSs in stages, so we'll have to We'll have to wait and see because there wasn't very many like set changes. I don't think there was any set changes in the current patch notes. And I know health-based heals is something that people have been going on about for quite a while now. So it wouldn't surprise me to see the Warden heal get clobbered in the next round of patch notes.
Oh, you think the nerf hammer's coming?
I think it's coming. With the second stage, I think they're going to do the rebalance of a lot of the proc sets that are favored right now and tone down some of the skills that are overperforming. I know everyone goes after Arctic Blast a lot, which I get it. Arctic Blast, it's a powerful heal. But the trade-off, I think, is that you have to stack into health for it, which means if I'm stacking into health, I'm not stacking into damage, which for right now is fine because we've got all the procs. But if procs come down and they knock that heal down, Wardens might be in trouble.
Yeah. You know, when we're talking about you hadn't noticed any of the armor sets currently having changes or adjustments, I was talking to Fuzzy Juggernaut just yesterday about this, and he reached out to Icy and I to see what our thoughts were on this. And basically what we all came to was his initial proposal was that PvP sets, he said, look, so why can proc sets or specific sets that are overperforming in PvP, the problem is balancing, because if you change that set, the PvE community gets very upset. And if you leave it, the PvP community, which is a smaller community, is upset. And the game is unbalanced in a PvP realm. And people lean on proc sets during PvP and overperform. And he said, however, what if there were a way that we could adjust the proc sets in the PvP world, but leave them the same in PvE, untouched? Now, if they're overperforming in trials or overperforming in dungeons, then yes, nerf them or adjust them there. But from a PvP standpoint, and so we come up with a couple iterations or a couple ideas on how to do that. And ultimately, Icy came up with the idea, and it was a pretty simple one. I'm pretty sure it was Icy's idea. He's got a lot of good ideas. But he said, why don't in the what's the debuff or the buff for, I don't know why I can't think of it right now.
Battle Spirit?
Battle Spirit, thank you. So just another line at the bottom of Battle Spirit that says some armor sets values are adjusted for PvP. Done. And so what would happen is, let's say Oblivion Foe, when you're wearing it in a PvP environment, dungeons, trials, open world, wherever, it functions like whatever, function A. That's how it functions.
Mm-hmm.
In a PvP environment, those numbers are adjusted for PvP. And in that moment, they don't have to adjust Oblivion Foe at all. They don't need to touch the numbers of Oblivion Foe outside of Imperial City or Cyrodiil or BGs. They just adjust it inside Imperial City.
Yeah, that's a great idea to add that to Battle Spirit. And I think I've actually heard Is There No One Else talk about that in some of his videos in the past as well. But yeah, it's a great idea. I think it just comes down to how difficult is that for them to code that in and make sure that everything gets captured under that umbrella. And right now with the servers, they're trying so hard to get rid of as many checks as possible. So if it has to run a check every time you use a proc to make sure that it reduces its damage, that may be kind of counterintuitive to what they're doing. But I don't know if it actually works that way. So if it doesn't have to run checks other than when you first load yourself in, then yeah, that's an amazing idea. I'd be totally fine with them doing that.
Yeah, we even added too, you know how if you're hovering over, say, your armor piece and you right click and then it brings up some options there like bind or lock or whatever, you could even, there be a button that says view. And so if you wanted to view that armor piece and then when you click view, it gives you, do you want to view it in PvE or PvP? And so you could select which one and then it'll just show you the stats of what that armor set does in PvP environment or what it does in a PvE. You could add that more programming, or you could just simply have the little sentence at the bottom of Battle Spirit that says these armor sets, and if you want to know what the value of this proc set is going to be in PvP, why don't you zone into Imperial City or Cyrodiil and look. So
Yeah.
but I thought that was kind of interesting. I hope that's the direction we're going. I want people to focus on getting better at PvP, you know, the mechanics of it and not just kind of one button wonders, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys actually I think it was the last episode of the podcast here, you guys talked about something that I think would work really well as well is that just make Malakath not work on proc sets anymore. And you
Yeah.
could do that just in PvP if you wanted, but um, something you and I had talked about before, Grim, I think, is that people tend to look at even a small nerf as like the end of the world. And if you made Malakath not work with proc sets, sure, it takes a hit, but Malakath doesn't actually give the 25% damage that people thinks it does. So if you made Malakath not work, I think proc builds would still be perfectly viable. They would still do great, but I think most people would stop using them for the simple fact that it got nerfed. They wouldn't even think twice about it. They would just ditch it because it was nerfed. So I think doing that change, while it wouldn't change the gameplay drastically, it would shift the meta.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. What did you from the support aspect, Icy, what have you been noticing about the PTS and the proposed changes with armor and stuff like that? Are you already theory crafting a direction for support and PvP healers?
Oof. I was looking today, just trying to refresh in my mind the patch notes and stuff. But I guess this is going to be our segue talking about the patch notes now. The scalability with the weighted sets or the weighted armor on how you can either pick, the 5-2, the 5-1-1, or the 5-2, or whichever, however you want to run it, or just 7-0. I was just trying to figure out like how would I change any of my support builds to accommodate for this? Would I just do a 3 heavy, 2 light, 2 medium? So that way the heavies can kind of balance out the light armor stuff. But then again, if I'm in heavy, I'm blocking the whole time anyway. So then does the increased magic damage that I would take since I have more heavy, does that even matter because I'm blocking? Or maybe I'll just run all medium, but then at the same time I'm running a heavy armor set that's not craftable, so I'll need 5 pieces of heavy anyway, so I won't even be able to do the 3-2-2 or 3-4-1, something ridiculous like that. So I feel like you're still going to be locked into the normal 5-1-1 or 5-2 or whatever, mostly because that Undaunted passive, people still like using that. I think mostly for PvE, they like the 5-1-1, but for PvP, I think most people either do 7-0 or 5-2. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But if you're using crafted sets, then oh yeah, you can do whatever the heck you need. So it's kind of hard, but I know these are just the numbers that they have right now of what they are proposing, and then as the rounds go on for the next couple months, those numbers will change. So we'll see what happens. But I know I do use a couple crafted sets, so yeah, it's a bit overwhelming at first, but I'm sure it'll all make sense in a couple months down the line.
Sinful noticed something that was interesting. Light armor takes more martial, and martial is the new like poison physical or whatever damage, the stamina based damage for the most part, but light armor takes more martial damage, and he thought that was kind of counterintuitive to you're already operating at a armor deficit wearing light armor, and now you're also going to take more martial damage, and that didn't quite make sense. Like, are we trying to incentivize people to wear light armor, or are we trying to give them another reason not to wear light armor?
Yeah,
when you look at
go ahead,
sorry,
Sinnful.
when you look at who's going to be dishing out that type of damage, the martial damage against a light armor target, in the next update, I would probably say most of it is going to be medium armor wearers. I could definitely see medium armor coming back in a big way for stam classes because it has no negative side. Light and heavy have negatives where medium only has bonuses. So if you've got these medium armor guys who are going to be tankier than you because they're in medium, and they're going to be dealing more damage because you're in light, and they're dealing martial damage. So I was looking at, running like a 7-piece light because you could get 21% cost reduction on your dodge roll. That's kind of big. So you can be a little roly light armor guy, which sounds kind of fun to me. But then you look at all these medium guys and they're not going to have any downside. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
It seems to me, I was joking with Sinful, I don't know if you remember this, but I was like, whoever came up with the armor negatives, are the same people that designed Vampire currently, like,
oh yeah.
here's my idea for Vampire. We're gonna bring Vampire back. They're gonna take a whole bunch of flame damage, and any abilities that they use that are not vampire abilities cost them more. Boom, done. And those same people were in charge of doing the armor stats.
So
Yeah,
quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
So with all the scalability stuff, do you think these penalties should even be there? Because I feel like if I was in light armor, I would be fine with just those bonuses, but I I feel like since they're doing scalability now, or that's what they want to do, or the direction they're going in, I feel like just having the bonuses, like, hey, if you want to be better at this, just wear more of this. If you want to be better at that, wear more of this. Instead of, hey, we're gonna make you good at this, but then also you're gonna take more damage if you're a healer wearing light armor in the back line, and then a stamp blade jumps on you, he's gonna be doing bonus damage to you. If you're wearing a full piece, say you're wearing 7 light for whatever reason, congratulations, you got minor vulnerability already on you for anybody who's a stamina class.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're already operating at a deficit, and like Sinful said, medium armor is going to be freaking king next patch. If what they've proposed right now goes up, medium armor, like 2 heavy, 5 medium, or a 5-1-1 is going to be the way. And we're going to see just absolutely ridiculous weapon damage numbers. Everybody's going to have 5-7k more health, it sounds like, and we're going to see some really crazy things. I've got people sending me builds right now that have a magic DK with 4k spell damage, 6k health recovery, and 45k health. What the heck? So
Yeah, I don't mind there being penalties. I think it's I like the idea of it. Like for again, we'll bring up light armor, I guess, but having the penalty that block costs more and you do less damage with bash, that's fine. Like you're in light armor. You should be trying to avoid damage using the roll dodge mechanic that it looks like they're trying to push light armor toward. I like that. So in light armor, yeah, you shouldn't be focusing on block. So it's kind of giving the armor weight a distinctive play style where you want to try and dodge roll and avoid damage rather than soaking damage using something like block. So I get that. That's cool. I like having the penalties. I just think that some of the penalties, like increased martial damage, should be looked at, because in light armor, like Grim said, you've already got lower armor stats. So my physical resistance is already low, but then light armor itself is going to boost my spell resistance. So that's cool. I like that. Heavy armor, on the other hand, you've got high physical and spell resistance, but then they take extra damage from magical attacks because they don't have that magical barrier that they talked about. So I think that's cool, but the extra martial damage on top of an already low physical resistance from light armor just seems a little off. And maybe I'm biased because I do like light armor because I'm a main Magicka person, but I don't know. That's just my take on it, I suppose.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the light armor, medium armor, and all that. So what else did you notice while you were there in the PTS? Are you already theory crafting, or really it's just like a whole new world and you're just trying to figure it out?
Well, I think anybody that has seen my channel in the past probably knows that I'm mainly a Nightblade. That's what I've played since the beta, and just recently I put the Nightblade away because Cloak has been so overwhelmingly broken. So I'm really hoping that in this next update that Cloak gets fixed and it works again, because yeah, I've got some theory crafting ideas for a magic Nightblade that I think is going to be pretty nutty. So it all hinges on, can they finally get a skill to work that hasn't worked in almost 7 years? Who knows? We'll have to see. But for some reason, all the theory crafting ideas that are popping in my head are all for the Nightblade.
That's where your heart's at.
Yeah, man, I love my Warden, but 6 years on a Nightblade will do that to you.
Yeah, I was running around on a Nightblade not too long ago, both stamina and magicka, and yeah, cloak not working was the bane of your existence while in that class right now. So, plus, I'd have to say that the burst doesn't line up when you compare it to other classes. Even a warden or a necromancer, the burst lines up so much smoother on those.
Yeah, and there's plenty of people that make Nightblade work just fine, but I personally I just don't like the flow of Merciless Resolve. Having to do the 5 light attacks, and I don't know. It's just,
Wouldn't it be cool if they made that operate just like frags on a Magsork? It has a chance to proc and the cost reduction. I mean, it has the same tooltip value, so why not? Why not make it operate similar? And then some people say, well, class diversity and this and that. I'm like, well, at the end of the day, who cares about class diversity when you got Magsorks with an amazing offensive kit, and you have Magicka Nightblades that, if you compared their offensive kit, they don't stack up well against each other. So
yeah, and
I will say this though, for the Merciless Resolve comment with those light attacks, because is that the spectral bow, the
Yeah.
other morph for it? Okay.
yeah,
I know in PvE when you're doing parsing, I think that's part of their one of their rotations, because you're light attack
Yeah.
weaving in between each another skill. So when that does proc for you, you can use it. So it does have a value. It does have a purpose outside of
Oh, for
PvP.
sure. Yeah.
That was my only.
In PvP, it's difficult because, especially as a Magicka Nightblade, that mechanic relies on you being able to stay in a fight and light weave 5 times without getting your face bashed in, and then be able to line up that burst in a combo. And in order to line up that burst, you're going to need Cloak to work. in order for you to get all those light attack weaves in a timely manner to where they can't just heal back up to full from the last time you tried it. You gotta be able to survive long enough to just basically just stand there and take some damage while you get that up. So in PvP, it doesn't flow as nicely as it does in PvE. And I feel like over the years, it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, coming from, playing in the beta all the way up through now and what's changed. The Nightblade used to be a completely different class. The the Merciless Resolve, or I can't even remember the unmorphed version of it now, but that skill didn't exist before. That used to be a skill called Haste, and Haste was an attack speed buff. Not a lot of people used it, but it could have been turned into something really cool to make Nightblades have something unique where you can get off a lot of skills really quickly during the time period of that buff. But instead, they went with something that kind of slows things down almost. And it feels like they turned the Nightblade into more of, at least the magic Nightblade, because I know Stand Blades are they're still crazy with their burst, but they turned Nightblade into, you either have to burst from stealth or PvE. There's no more real like brawler Nightblades out there anymore, and I feel like that was a very intentional choice by the developers, which is fine. They're entitled to make whatever choices they want, but I miss my brawler Nightblade.
Yeah, wouldn't it? So if they just made it 2 or 3 light attack weaves, wouldn't that increase the value of that ability exponentially? Like make it much more valuable to a class that is not trying to stand and box with somebody, right?
Yeah, and I think they tried that by making heavy attacks worth 2, but again, in PvP, you can't just stand there and wind up a heavy attack. Even if you do it from cloak, like people dodge roll heavy attacks from stabs all the time,
Yeah, and they dodge roll that ability too. You get your 5
Yeah.
stacks and you're like, sweet, I can finally let this loose, and they dodge roll it anyways, and you're like, well,
Yep.
back to building stacks again.
Yeah, but I guess back to your original question that started this rant. Yes, I do have theory crafting ideas, but they're all for the Nightblade, and I'm just hoping they make some changes that make the Nightblade work.
I'm gonna keep the rant going. So, do you think all skills should be? So I know most of the skills, majority of the skills, have a stamina version and a magic version. But do you think all skills should be designed for both PvE and PvP? And one example that comes to mind is Streak, where on a Sork, it's almost essential for PvP play, but in PvE, it has no value unless you're either, say, I don't know, trolling, or you just come out of a BG with your PvP gear on and everything, and you just jump right into a daily dungeon.
No, I don't think every skill needs to be valuable in both. You want things in the kit that are geared toward different styles of play, whether it's PvP or PvE. But in the case of the Nightblade, since we were talking about that, I feel like they geared a lot of the skills toward PvE. As far as taking something like Cloak that had 2 morphs, and the whole Nightblade class identity was that they were the stealthy little rogue type guy, right? And they took Cloak and just removed one of the morphs. So if you want to play that stealthy style, you only have one choice. So I think they just went too far on the Nightblade. Just in terms of how it plays, talking about the Merciless Resolve thing, how you gotta stand there and build it up, and then only having one version of Cloak, which most of the time doesn't work anyway. But no, I don't think every skill needs to be useful in every situation. But it'd be nice if the class kits had a good balance, because for stamina, you have access to all the weapon skills, But as Magicka, you really only have your class skills to rely on. And if you're trying to PvP as Magicka and your class skills are all geared toward PvE, you're in a tough spot. And most of the Destro skills are not all that valuable in PvP either. So I
Yeah.
don't know, it's tough.
Let's
I would
take
like to see a new weapon type for Magicka, something like a spell blade or something. Some kind of melee Magicka based weapon. I think that'd be really cool.
that would be awesome. On that same note though, about viable abilities or whatever, let's take a Magicka sorcerer. I've never parsed super high on a mag sorc, for trials and things like that, but I know the rotation's different and the abilities that you use are different, right? When you're trying to push real high parse, but your rotation for the high level PvPers is completely different. The loadout's completely different. What that tells me is that is a class that's put together very well. It's got higher end production potential on both sides, on the PvE side and the PvP side, right? And that's what you should be. That's what you should be aiming for. So I think sorcerer is in a really good spot, and some people will disagree. They'll say sorcerers are OP, and I would agree, but I don't think that they're overpowered. I should say I think that they're performing exactly as a class should when it's balanced properly. They have the high end potential in the hands of the right person to do amazing things. And so now let's go across and look at all the other classes and see where how they scale. And now I don't know on a Magic and Nightblade what the higher end parses are. Do either one of you guys know what the high end parses are for a Magic and Nightblade?
Oh, I have no. I mean, you guys know me. I'm a PvE legend, so
I think.
I've done PvE like twice.
Oh yeah,
Twice.
I've seen you. I've seen you. I think. Oh, I want to say Hack the Minotaur. Maybe he did a video a week or a couple weeks ago about just ranking for 2021 the best solo classes, and the top three were, number one being Magcro, number two being Magsork, and then number three being Magblade. So it's definitely up there for sure.
Yeah, and that's where I thought it was too. I remember a handful of people saying that they parse 90 plus K on a mag blade. But when you turn around and take a mag blade into PvP, change out the abilities and put it in the hands of the higher performers, even the higher are saying this class, the burst doesn't line up the way, I could jump on something else and absolutely dominate people, not be worried about block not work or cloak not working, not be worried about those moments where I have to box with people or anything like that. The healing kit feels amazing, the damage feels amazing, and Magic and Nightblade in the PvP atmosphere is not functioning that way right now. So
Yeah, I've seen some people out in PvP on Magic and Nightblades that they don't use cloak; they use the healing morph of it.
yeah, Dark Cloak, yeah.
And they're able to turn the Magic Nightblade into something that works really well, and it's tanky, it's beefy, it's got good damage. I've tried to put it together in the last couple months since I've been back to the game, and I've had a hard time with it. But I think the people who have made it work like that are sort of an enigma.
Yeah.
For most people, it's not. They're not going to be able to get it to function that way.
Yeah,
And
if we're not able to emulate it, right? And that's what we do is we theory craft and test builds and do stuff like that. The masses are probably not going to be able to emulate it, right?
right.
Yeah.
I've seen some people posting videos too of like ranking the PvP classes, kind of like what you were just talking about, Icy. But it's all for PvP and some good players. And I think that I've watched like 3 of them, and Magic Nightblade has been ranked dead last every single time.
Yeah.
I can agree to that, and I don't play Nightblades at all.
Yeah.
Well, and I saw one guy's video. I'm blanking on the name here because I watched a few of them, but he talked about the Magic Nightblade, and it never really, it's something that I've noticed, but I never really put it together in my own head that Magic Nightblade has kind of an identity crisis where your main attack skill, Swallow Soul, is a ranged ability, but then every other skill you have, your CC, um, that all that kind of stuff, all your support skills are all melee range. So it's like they can't decide. Do they want Magic Nightblade to be up close? Do they want it to be at range? Do they want it to somehow try and be both? But hopefully they straighten the class out because I love my Nightblade.
Yeah, that is a huge problem with it. Like you were saying, is your ultimate, you're trying to get close to land that on somebody, and you're also not trying to box with them. You're trying to burst them and get them out of there, and then cloak's not working. So now all of a sudden we're boxing with somebody, and if we're boxing with them for an extended period of time, hoping and waiting for our relentless focus to come up, and then it misses anyways, or we're
Yeah,
it happens. It's like, yeah, it's rough right now.
it's all right. I have faith. We'll get there.
I think so. Well, someday. What else have you noticed about the PTS outside of the light armor penalties and stuff? I saw that racial passives and stuff like that. We've got a change of racial passives hitting.
Yeah, I've seen. I looked through them kind of briefly. I haven't spent a lot of time, like you said. I was only on there for about a half an hour. Went through a few things, but I did notice that Nords are getting beat up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think they're losing some health and a bunch of armor. And
Oh, do you want me to read out the adjustments?
Yeah, let's go through each one of them one at a time and give our own hot take on it.
Okay, I'll go in order, but I'll just start with Nord. So for Resist Frost, the passive no longer grants immunity to the Chilled status effect, and they now have increased the Frost resistance to 4600 from 23, and the Rugged passive reduced the armor granted from this passive down to 2600 from 3960. So I think that because I think minor resolve is 2900 and major resolve is 5900. So I think it looks like it's almost becoming like their own little minor resolve, just 300 resistance shorter than that number.
that's a good way to look at it. And I didn't put that together. Yeah, that's pretty good then.
Yeah, I like running Nord on a lot of things for the added resistance and the ult gen from it. I don't think it breaks Nord. They still have armor and they still generate ult, right? They just have a little less. I think that this kind of might help steer people from a heavy armor meta into medium armor meta. So if healing's still going to be based off of weapon damage or scale off weapon damage, and we're not going to be able to be as tanky as we'd like to be by running Nord or whatever, might as well come out of the heavy armor, go to medium, stack weapon damage, and start blowing people up and have really high vigor tooltips and stuff. So that's kind of my hot take on the change to Nord.
Equally though, it's only if I'm looking directly at the numbers, or I'll round down, it's only about 1,000 resistance less. So is, say, 28k resistances compared to 27k resistances going to be the make or break whether you get killed or not? I don't really think so.
No, I mean
No.
1,000 resist is what, like 1.5% damage. Like it's kind of nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of small changes. Next one. The Argonian. So the resistance, the passive no longer grants immunity to the diseased status effect, and once again grants an equal amount of poison resistance. And the resourceful passive, it now grants 1000 max stamina, and the resources restored is now 3000 instead of 4000. I know I play Argonian a lot, and I do like having a 12k resource restore when I pop a tri potion, but if I now have to have a 11k, I think I'm going to be all right. It's still a ton across the board, so. And I guess that line of max stam is pretty nice too.
Yeah. I'm really surprised that they didn't nerf their swim speed. That's a huge problem in PvP.
Well,
Yeah, man, when
actually,
you can escape the slaughterfish.
Yeah, yeah.
so the cool part, I know there's I don't know, Sinnfull, you saw it in the PTS and the Constellation, but I know there's a passive that you can increase to reduce your fall damage. Did you see one that'll increase your swim speed?
You know what? I don't remember. I don't recall one, but that could just be my bad memory. Who knows?
Well, it's probably there. I hope so. I'll hope it's there. But I think also in the advanced stats too that we now have access to, since they're gonna add essentially like the whole stat window for ESO builder into the game. I think you might even be able to see things like swim speed and all those, nitty gritty things that people might want to invest in. So that'll be kind of
Yeah,
cool.
there was a ton of information in that stat screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Icy, were you the one that I sent the video to about the don't trust this Argonian? Do you remember that?
That sounds hilarious. Was that from Sawman,
I
the
think
doggo guy?
yeah, Sawman UK. I think it was.
Yeah. So you'd see like a
He just joined our Discord, by the way. Hey, Sawman.
yeah. I guess he dressed up as like some hillbilly Argonian, down in like the swamp city or something like that, and then you just kind of see him out in Cyrodiil hanging by that area, and then he kind of tries to get your attention, and then you follow him down and swim across the river, and while you're swimming, he'll just kill you midway. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, so that's one of the few times I've ever seen someone utilize Argonian swimming passive in PvP, but he would basically just bait them, and he had friends hiding in stealth on a little island across the water, and he'd run from them and just jump in the water and start swimming across to the island, and the person would jump in the water and swim across, and they'd turn around and just nuke the guy in the water before he got out.
And then
Oh man, that's a clever way to make use of that.
Super funny. I was laughing so hard. I was like, and there it is, everyone. That's why Argonian swim speed is OP.
and I forget if you just mentioned it. Did you mention his buddy that would also? I think it was a Khajiit Nightblade that's just standing on a rock waiting. So then they just get double toxic barrage from the Argonian and the Khajiit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was
So
so funny. Yeah.
yeah, nice little trap they set up too.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, Argonian swim speed OP.
Fun fact: if you're wearing Ring of the Wild Hunt on any class and any race that isn't the Argonian, you will now swim at the same speed as a baseline Argonian. And then, of course, if you're an Argonian wearing Ring of the Wild Hunt, you are untouchable in the
Yeah.
water.
So next time you're swimming and you're a Nord and you've got the Wild Hunt ring on, when you're swimming, just think to yourself, so this is what it's like to be an Argonian.
It's pretty nice. Next one, the Breton Spell Attunement. It looks like they just increased the magic recovery granted from the passive to 130, up from 100. I don't think there's much to say there.
That's nice.
Exactly. Dark Elf, the dynamic passive, increased the max magicka and stamina granted from the passive to 1910, up from 1875, and then the resist flame passive. They're no longer immune to the burning status effect, and instead have increased flame resistance. What do you think about these small little stat increases? So 1875 up to 1910. That's just 35 more resources on their stat, their total stats. Like, why would they even bother doing that? Is that going to make or break whether I do something in particular? What do you guys
I mean,
think?
I would say probably not, but and we still don't know what's coming through the rest of this update, so there may be a reason for it, but I mean, I can't really, I don't know, 35 more magic and stamina. I don't know. Seems a little weird, but
I think
we'll see.
removing the immunity on each of the racial passives is more significant than that extra
Yeah,
35 stats. That's going to
that's a big deal.
yeah.
Because like Argonians, you could never proc.
Defile?
You could never proc Defile on them without having a skill that actually does the buff itself.
Oh, you mean from the disease enchantment?
Yep.
So like a blast bones flying at an Argonian isn't going to apply that because of the immunity, but they no longer have that, or will no longer at that point.
But they're increasing the amount of resistance to the damage type, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, in exchange for the
So
immunity.
yeah, so I kind of like that because now if you look at like a dark elf that we were just talking about, they've got more resistance toward flame damage.
Mhm.
So a dark elf vampire could be really good.
Yeah. It probably, does it increase the amount of checks that the game has to do, or does it keep it the same? Like a blast bones flying at an Argonian, or say there's 4 people together and one of them's an Argonian. When the blast bones hits all of them, still has to do a check across the board versus every player, and then their specific resistances towards that type of damage. So whereas before, or currently, the Argonian is immune, right? So it's just going
Mhm.
to take the damage, still has to do the math, their resistances versus the damage, but not necessarily applying the status effect, right?
I want
Well,
to
now,
say, or go ahead, Sinful.
yeah, I was gonna say now when you get hit with that blast bones, the game is gonna know we're applying this status effect to everybody. They all get it. They just have to calculate the resistance, which it was already doing. So in the game right now, if that blast bones hits, it has to calculate the resistance to see how hard it's going to hit. It's got to proc the status effect and then check, is this person immune to this status effect that just procced? So we're kind of getting rid of that last part.
Right.
So I guess I look at it as one less check, but I don't know. I just like that they're doing it because now it means you can use status effects from all your different damage types on weapon enchants, and they'll be useful against everyone.
Yeah. Um, yeah, man, I'm kind of interested to see how this all works and the math of it and everything. I wish that was a little bit more clear, right? That you could see the math of it all.
Well, maybe with all these advanced stats that we'll have access to, maybe we can actually see these things in game now. Since it'll eliminate the guesswork from having to use a third-party tool like ESO Builder.
Yeah. What other racial passives you got? Racial changes? Was that it?
No, a couple more. High Elf, the Elemental talent passive now grants weapon and spell damage rather than only spell damage. And then the Spell Recharge passive, reduce the restore on this passive to 625 down from 640. See, small changes like that just I question things. And the passive now works from any ability used rather than only off class abilities. So I think that's a pretty nice quality of life improvement right there. And now instead of, I guess the part that I don't like is that now high elves can have a little bonus to weapon and spell damage rather than only spell damage. Because I feel like if you wanted to say pick a race that had very efficient Magicka sustain, then you pick a Breton. If you wanted something that would be a mag class that could output a lot of damage, you'd probably pick a high elf because they have the spell damage passive. But now they can do both. So I guess I could make a Stam Sork high elf, which would be viable, which would bring your Mandalorian dude back. So
Yeah, Mando.
They may be doing something like that to try and incentivize doing hybrid builds too. So high elf might be like the go-to for a hybrid.
but I'm pretty sure the Dark Elves, they already have weapon and spell damage part of their kit. So when I
No,
would
they only had spell damage, but they have magic and stamina, which I suppose kind of works out to the same thing. But it gives you a choice, I guess, if you want to go with a hybrid, but you want to stack weapon and spell damage versus magic and stamina. You've got an option. I'm just trying to guess, so I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine.
Do you think some of these changes get rid of the class identity or racial identity? Do you think that that's kind of where we're at now? All of a sudden, we're going towards everybody's going to get weapon and spell bonuses.
Yes, and I was actually watching I think it's Skinny Cheeks, I think that's his name, and he was saying how they're like, let me see if I have a good example here. He said he would like to see, I guess, if you're gonna say, I'm jumping all over the place here, but he made a point that if they were gonna add like Magicka to like a Nord or something with like reduction, or if they were reducing the armor, why don't you throw in a line of max Magicka too, so then Nords can actually be used for mag tunes instead of just stamina based tunes. And that's what he was hoping for. But to me, to what your point, Grim, it removes that identity. For if I wanted to be good at a tank, I'd probably pick a Nord. If I wanted to be a PvE healer and I needed sustain because that's more what I would need, I pick a Breton. If I want to have really thick heals in PvP as a support healer, I'd pick an Argonian. But now everybody's, that's not what they're doing here with trying to make everybody exactly the same. But then, it didn't. It looks like it might get to a point where it doesn't matter who you pick; they can all do the same thing, and then that kind of stinks, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think we're kind of getting down to the nitty gritty, or I don't even know the minutia of it. Like I have a high elf stamina Nightblade already, in the current meta or the current state of the game, and it works just fine. I can go out there and do just fine on a high elf Stam Blade. Is it mid max? No, not if you're going against top tier. But nobody going against top tier, whatever is having, they're struggling just as much as everyone else. So, yeah, I think if it came down to just play whatever race you want to play, if you want to look like an Argonian, be an Argonian tank, be a Breton. I have an orc. When I first leveled my orc, Dreadcaller, I leveled him as a sorcerer. He was Magsork. Magsork orc, and I got a lot of comments when I'm running dungeons, never seen an orc sorcerer before, GG, so.
As they're whispering looking up at you because they're dead.
Yeah, so it's whatever. Play the game you want. What are most of your races? What do you run as, Sinful?
My Nightblade originally was a Breton, and I think Breton, with all these changes we're talking about, Breton is still going to be the best sustain class, or best sustaining race for Magicka. And then after a while, it was actually in one of those videos that you were talking about at the very beginning of this, the like vlog style theory crafting videos. I switched him from a Breton to a Dark Elf for a specific build because we sat down in the video and worked out all the numbers, and Dark Elf was just a lot better for what I was doing at the time. But now, I think my Nightblade and my Warden are both High Elf.
Yeah, now you're going to have weapon damage. So it kind
Does
of
nothing for me, but cool. I'll take it.
Well, I have a feeling though with the changes that are coming out, if you want to explore hybrids, right, it becomes that much easier because hybrids are, wouldn't you agree, building an actual hybrid and being successful with it is one of the hardest things to do in the game right now.
Oh, for sure. And I would love to have the ability to do something like that, because having played Magicka for so long now and being stuck with just the class skills, I would love to be able to actually mix class skills with some of the weapon skills from like dual wield, for example. And they're changing the weapon types and the bonuses that they give to also help make hybrids, which is going to be fantastic. So I would love to be able to effectively use, um, like a throwing dagger along with a swallow soul. You know what I mean? Being able to combine the two styles together, I think would be really cool. But it's just so hard to do right now.
So, since you actually just mentioned it, with the, I'll just take the dual wield line for a moment. The swords, instead of doing damage done by 3 and 6%, they're now changing it to weapon and spell damage. So
Mhm.
I know this is before my time when I before I joined, but from what I've heard, there was a time where Magtoons could use sword and dual wield daggers or dual wield swords and whatever. You think that actually might come back
Um,
after this patch comes through?
Things, I think so, but like things haven't really changed in regards to the melee weapons uh, up until these patch notes. If I wanted to dual wield, and I've got some videos on the channel of dual wielding a mag blade, but the only option you had as a Magicka character was swords, because they did just flat damage. It wasn't weapon damage or spell damage; it was just damage. So it works on a Magicka tune. Everything else gives, like daggers give weapon crit. So I can't use that. But a long time ago, some of that used to be viable because as a Magicka character, weapon damage increased the damage of your light and heavy attacks. So if you wanted to do a heavy attack build, you would stack weapon damage even with a Magicka character. So it was useful for that. But aside from that, you really could only use swords if you wanted to do a dual wield build using Magicka skills.
Yeah, and now if you want to stack spell damage, you go dual wield swords, but if you want to stack crit or crit damage, right, and critical heals, you go axes. Is that right, Icy?
Yes. So I know whenever I do my sorting board, because I think well, having just one axe still increase those bonuses?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I know then if you're like a healer in PvP, having an axe as, in one hand will definitely increase your gains for your healing done. So that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, with dual wield, you can use like I know Zeromas for a long time, he would use like one dagger and one sword, or a dagger and a mace, and kind of mix those different stats together. And yeah, that stuff works. And as a Magicka character, I'm actually kind of excited to try out some of that stuff, like using dual wield with maces, because it's going to give me penetration now, which it's never done before.
Yeah, I think it's flat armor pen now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Plus, they've added new status effects to the game with this update. So I'm kind of excited to run a Magicka class with like some type of physical damage, whether it's an enchant or just swinging a mace and using light attacks and stuff or whatever. But the physical damage new status effect is Minor Breach.
Yeah, I think it's called Sundered. Is the new name?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, but it does Minor Breach. So if you run like I think you guys might have seen. I did like I've done a ton of Torix pack builds. So run something like that with a physical damage enchant on it, and with the new CP system too. You're not bottlenecked into damage types like that. So as a Magicka character, right now I have to put points into increasing my elemental damage types because that's what all my skills do. In the new CP system, you can kind of spread your points between both types really efficiently. So I think you can do something like a Magicka class with Torig's Pact and a physical damage enchant and make that damage enchant hit really hard and proc Minor Breach for you. It opens up a lot of new options, being able to mix and match all these damage types and weapon types. And I'm sorry, I'm excited. There's so many possibilities.
Yeah, build diversity is going to fly way up. So all the content creators are going to be kind of working in overtime trying to figure out. I mean, this is going to throw the meta on its head, or out the door, I should say, because figuring out what the new meta is, everybody will think that they found the new meta, and then they're going to realize, no, hybrids are the new meta, and here's why. Or, you know, Mag Sork is the new, king, and here's why. Or Mag DK. And I think it's going to fluctuate for a long time until at least the next year or two. Well, at least the next year or two is my guess, until we figure out exactly what it is.
Yeah, I can definitely see a lot of dual wield people running an axe and then something else so that they can proc bleed with the axe and then have like a physical damage enchant. That way they're getting Minor Breach and Minor Mangle with like one heavy attack swing. That could be extremely powerful because bleed damage now, its new status effect is Minor Mangle, which drops your total HP by what, 10%?
Yes, 10%.
Yeah, I mean that's huge, man. Against my Warden, that's like an extra 4,000 health that I lose just because you swung an axe at me.
Yeah. Didn't they? That's one of the things, is they're getting rid of the bleed status effect on axes, right? Icy, and they're making it just additional crit damage or crit heals.
So the bleed damage. I'm getting myself confused now. Yes, you are correct. So you can't trigger bleed from an axe anymore.
Or whenever this goes live, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. So you're just getting a bonus to critical. Is it a bonus to critical damage done or critical chance? Daggers does critical chance.
Yeah, axe
Yeah.
is crit damage and healing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Crit damage and healing done. Yep.
Yeah. So that's pretty interesting.
And I guess since we're talking about the buffs and debuffs, magic damage will now apply overcharged, which deals, its own type of damage, but then also applies minor magicka steel. So that'll be pretty interesting too, just for sustain for magicka types.
Yeah. Does that change having to put? I mean, all these people are running around with their Vatashran stabs now. Do they not have to apply any minor magicka steel? I guess they still want the major breach, don't they? Status and the dot.
Yeah, but like it gives a new element of gameplay, I think, to where if you want like a high sustained character but that still has damage, I think what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to run all 3 of your jewelry pieces as spell damage, and then run your weapon enchant with one of the enchants that deals magic damage and gives you magicka back. And again, this is just going into like my own stupid world of Torix Pack, but if you do that, the amount of magicka you get back is pretty substantial, and it can go off every second and a half. And that magic damage portion of that is also going to proc this minor magic steal. So you can get a lot of sustain through just one of those magic damage, like magicka return enchants.
Yeah. So I think that was the thing when Icy was talking back in the day. There was the meta where a lot of elite level mag sorks were using dual wield on their overload bar, right? Trying to push the highest spell damage they could.
Mhm.
I don't see why that wouldn't be the whole thing back then, and why it was hard to sustain, right? You light attack or heavy attack with a dual wield was not returning magicka the same
Right.
way a staff would. And so those people were, looking for elite level burst, but sustain was hurting. And but with the introduction of gear sets like Eternal Vigor, the changes to what's the set that is from Runes of Mazatoon, Amber Plasm, and all the recoveries in that. There's way more recovery, I feel like, in the game now as opposed to then. And now magic damage is going to apply minor magic steal. So seeing a dual wield mag DK that sustains just fine might be a thing now, because it's hard to sustain on a mag DK, let alone a mag DK that's running dual wield. So I'm
Yeah.
all for all of this. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun, man. Because you can even, taking that kind of a step further, you can look at just like a full magicka class. The biggest thing that kills us is running out of stamina, because our stam pool is so small on a magicka class. And I mean, you could say that's true of stam tunes too, but um, having this new magic damage applying magicka steal, you could use your enchant to give you all that sustain while running, dual wield maces, and your enchant will give you magicka sustain, and your heavy attacks will give you stam sustain. So you'll be able to keep both pools full a lot easier.
Yeah, see, that's exciting. Now, based off that, put a build together, and on what class, and
Right?
then what race, and what do we got there? Is
Yeah,
that
this is where my wheels have been turning for the Nightblade and getting back to a melee magblade, and it's gonna be so fun, man. I can't wait.
yeah? What else you got for us, Icy?
I was gonna say earlier when he was getting excited, his inner Arnold almost came out for a moment.
Oh yeah,
He's scratching at the surface, man. He was about to jump right through.
yeah. Icy, you were going to have us each do our Arnold impersonation, and that way that everybody could see how amazing. Are you? Before we do that, we have to do that because it'll be funny. But
Oh God.
yeah, we have to do it. We have
Put
to.
me on the spot, why don't you? All right.
So, are you going to do the Governator series? And can you tell everybody what the series is, if you're going to do it or not? I totally think you should. It'll be a hit.
Uh, it'll be a smash hit, by the way. I am gonna do it. I just haven't quite decided on the format I want to do yet. Whether I want to do something live or do it as a voiceover. But yeah, the Governator series is definitely going to happen. I just have to figure out exactly how I want to do it.
Oh my gosh, it's going to be all. I want to help you do it. Whatever I can do to help, because it's going to be freaking glorious. It'll be the best watch time spent for anyone out there. And as a side note, I started running around with Sinnfull and Zero, and you would think here's two hardcore PvP guys that will kill a group of 10, 20 people, and you'd think when you jump into chat with them how they're coordinating and they're doing this, they're doing that. Heck no, they ain't doing any of that. They're literally joking and talking in Arnold voices. Like, can you give me the dizzy swing quote?
Oh god, let me
Like
try to remember what
fire
was it like.
dizzy swing, like
He's trying to hit me with the dizzying swing, but guess what? I'm not dizzy.
Yeah, these guys are sitting here like firing back and forth. Look at this choir boy. This choir boy over here is trying to, like he tried to use the soul assault. That does nothing to me. I'm the Arnold. Here I am. Come get me. Kill me. You know, it's the funniest thing ever. They just go back and forth, firing Arnold quotes, and in the meantime, killing everybody in the room.
It's funny you mentioned that because
The whole time.
I got a clip last night of Zero and I. We were out in the sewers for Mid-Year Mayhem, and we ran into a group of 5 guys in the DC sewer. They were out there. It was a little gank squad that they were killing everybody in our sewers. So we went out to go clear them out, and we run into them. We start fighting, and I got this whole clip of us killing off this group of 5 guys, and we were doing just that. We were going back and forth about just whatever stupid things were happening, but in governor to governor.
Dude, I think if you just recorded the audio of you guys talking like that during the fight, I think that's content right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first time I jumped in a group with you guys, I was just laughing the whole time because that's what you were doing. You guys work so well together, you didn't even need to coordinate. And it was literally like, let's just be Arnold and kill everybody in sight. And, it was funny.
Yeah, we got clips again, like for the Mid-Year Mayhem stuff. I've been recording a lot, but I got another clip last night of us just running around killing people where it was another like big outnumbered fight like that. And it was kind of the opposite. We didn't say a thing. It was completely silent. And we've been PvPing together now for like 20 years, so we just kind of know each other's style, I guess. And we're able to take down this outnumbered fight and peel for each other and CC for each other and like do all these different things, throw heals at one another, but we didn't have to say a word. Like you just you play with the same person long enough that you get into a rhythm, and we can run around being goofy, yelling Arnold quotes at each other, or we can just not say anything at all. And it's kind of fun. You never know what kind of fight you're going to get into.
Yeah. So he did his Arnold, Icy. I did my Arnold. Let's see your Arnold.
Get out of here. That's all I got. Oh Lord.
That's your Arnold? That's your Arnold? That was like, you're such a choir boy compared to me, huh? Get out of here. Get out of here with that.
It was supposed to be scripted. I go first because I know I have the worst one, and then you, and then Sinful. Now we don't end on the bad one. Jeez.
All right, let's just delete all of that, and we'll start over. And go ahead, Icy.
All right, let's hear it, Icy.
Now you're gonna make me do it again? Get out of here. There you go.
You got to say at least 2 sentences.
That's all I can say. Hurry. I can't believe this is gonna make it on.
Was it? was it you, Icy? Was it you sending me like the Harry Potter quotes?
Oh yeah, because I think what's cool about how you can do the impressions is I can feed you almost any line and you can do it flawlessly, which is pretty awesome.
Have Veronica look up a quote right now, like whatever it is, and while she's looking up the quote, I'll do my official Arnold one. Okay. All right. Hang on. If you could see, I'm like massaging my jaw right now.
You gotta get ready, man. You gotta get into character, you know.
I don't know. Yeah. Let me light up a cigar here. Listen here. I went to Imperial City last night. I killed many people. They were all bad.
Dude, that was pretty good.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, that was pretty good. That was impressive, man. You caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting that.
It's hanging around you guys.
I had Veronica send me the link. I just sent it over to Sinful. It's the same one from before.
I told
the Harry Potter.
I told I told Icy, this is I didn't tell you this, Sinful, but instead of putting your logo on the thumbnail, we were going to put a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger, with like a thumbs up, and they, the governor is joining us today. You were supposed to be like in character, like the whole first part of the episode. It would have been funny.
Ooh, well, we can always start over. I'll make it work for you guys. All right, so Icy, I guess it's my turn now. Icy sent me a Harry Potter quote here, so I gotta figure out what does Arnold sound like if he was in Harry Potter.
Take your time.
Okay, here we go. Ready? This the second time you've spoken out of turn, Miss Granger. 5 more points for Gryffindor for being an insufferable know-it-all.
I love it, dude. Oh my goodness.
That's awesome. Can you say expecto patronum?
Expecto patronum.
You have to do the so there's been times where he's like outnumbered. He's got like 5 people trying to kill him, and he yells, "Here I am, come get me, kill me."
Here I am, I'm here, kill me now.
I just laugh so much when I'm running around with you guys.
Lol, the funny thing is that I yell at them and they get so excited that they come out there to kill me, and then they can't do it.
Yep. They can't. They sure can't. That's funny. Good times. So what are we missing with just a basic overview of some of the changes from the patch notes, Icy? What have we missed?
Well, we started with the racial stuff, and then we kind of just jumped all over the place, but we can just touch upon the werewolves real quick. They're getting that 10k flat armor bonus they were getting to now just having major resolve up at all times when in werewolf form. I think that's a really nice change, and probably something that should have already been there from the get-go.
I totally agree.
Yes, this is probably the out of everything that we've talked about today, this might be my most anticipated change here. The days of the unkillable werewolf will be at an end.
Yeah, and just to kind of touch base on how significant that is, for some werewolves, they're getting that 10,000 armor buff just for being a werewolf, plus 30% movement speed. So it's hard to tie them down into one spot, to damage them. Plus they have a 15, 17k burst heal. So they're running around with more resistances, more speed, and bigger burst heals. That's kind of a problem. But then you throw on the fact that some of these guys are also using Engine Guardian, or they're using Mighty Chudan. And they could use Mighty Chudan's 2-piece Mighty Chudan because it's specifically named Major Resolve. And their armor buff granted to them as a werewolf was not named Major Resolve. So they could, in that moment, get the 5,900 additional resistances from Mighty Chudan that would normally fall off because your armor buff would fall off after being in werewolf for a certain amount of time. Well, now, those people would have the 10,000 from werewolf and the 5,900 from that's 15, 16k resistances. Even if you were to put Pierce on that person, you're probably still not going to get them below armor cap, resistance cap. And so that's a big problem. Plus they get the 30% movement speed and the crazy burst heal. So I think that's a really nice change. And what we might see is some werewolves might move away from the tanky meta. We might actually see some berserker werewolves, right? Let's lean into the damage a little bit more. We're getting a little bit more health. We could go medium armor. Let's lean into the damage and go berserker and see if we can get people out quicker. Because there is going to be a tipping point, right? We could just be ultra tanky and out survive everybody, right? Or out sustain them. They blow all their resources trying to kill me, and then I in turn kill them. Or, now that they're going to be less tanky, they're going to need to invest in damage. And so where's that tipping point at where you should go towards the damage side, not so much the tank side? So what's your guys' thoughts on that?
I like it. I mean, I think, like you said, being able to stack that 10,000 armor and major resolve right now, it's massively overkill, especially with being able to burst heal for like 20,000. It's kind of crazy. And I think the werewolves will still be able to have that big burst heal unless it gets looked at in a future update on the PTS here. But I'm just glad that, for the most part, a lot of werewolves are about to lose 10,000 armor. Because, like you said, most of them are running Chudan with that. So they get to keep the buff they're getting from Chudan, but they're losing that 10,000 from the passive. So I don't know. Even with the burst heal, it's going to be a lot easier to start dragging their health down. So it'll be good.
Yeah, especially with that 10k less resistances. So yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a lot easier to kill them.
So how are we doing on time, Icy?
We have about 10 minutes left.
Okay. So let's talk about your YouTube channel real quick. You just, like we said, you just started some content again. You've got a couple videos up. Where can everybody find you right now? You're on YouTube. Where's that at exactly? And then are you on Twitch right now? What's your plans for the future of YouTube and Twitch?
No, Twitch, I did the streaming thing for a long time. I don't think I'll go back over on Twitch, especially in a game like this where, I used to run into problems a lot where I would stream and people would just watch the stream and come kill me. They, what do they call it? The stream sniping, what the kids calling it these days. No, right now I'm just on YouTube, youtube.com/Sinnfullduck. And I'm, super intelligent. So sinful is spelled incredibly wrong, but that was on purpose. So, I actually had a hard time getting the name when I would create characters in games, because people would always take the name Sinful spelled correctly. So I had to screw up the name and spell it wrong so I could actually use the name. But yeah, youtube.com/Sinnfullduck. If I do end up doing any streams, it'll probably just be on my YouTube channel. So video streams all in one place.
Yeah, I'm looking at doing that right now. It's so convenient. What about Patreon and then merchandise? Do you currently have a merchandise line, and do you have Patreon available if people want to help grow, support, or grow the channel?
I don't have a Patreon. I have just like a basic PayPal donation type thing set up, but no, I'm doing this for fun at the moment. So if anybody does want to help support it, it's always welcome and appreciated. But no, I mean, I don't try and push anyone into that or anything like that. I'm just here doing something I enjoy doing and having some fun with it. So the biggest support that you guys can give me is just come watch the videos and say hi.
Okay. Do you have so in the descriptions below we'll have a link to everything. We'll have a link to his YouTube, we'll have a link to the PayPal for you guys. And do you have any questions for Icy and I, or any comments or anything before we tie it up?
No, I mean the only questions I had for you guys, like, before we kind of took care of it, which was, am I gonna have to just keep running into you guys in the sewers and fighting you over and over? But you guys brought those DC guys over, so I feel good now.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. The whole thing for us, Icy and I and you in the sewers, is like, if we're on EP and there's 40 EP running around, there's no reason for us to stay on EP. Let's jump over to DC and go kill that group, And Icy says this: we need to bring balance to the force. That's what we're there for.
Yes.
And so I think that's awesome. Did you have anything, Icy?
I do not. All right, so we'll see you guys on the next one. See ya.
See ya.
Don't worry, everybody. They'll be back.
You're gonna say bye-bye, Argonians.
Bye bye, Rogonian.